At 10 p.m., I checked the doorbell cam and saw my neighbor standing on our porch, gently rocking an empty baby carrier. The same woman who'd spent the past week begging me to let her 17-year-old son practice fatherhood with my newborn baby. That's when I knew we had a serious problem. I'm 28, a brand new dad doing my best to keep it together on very little sleep. My wife, 27, is an absolute rock star, juggling motherhood like a pro despite recovering from a C-section that left her sore and exhausted. Our newborn son, Liam, was just 3 weeks old when this nightmare with our neighbor, a woman in her mid-40s I now call EM, entitled Mom, kicked into high gear. She lives across the street in a tidy yellow house with her 17-year-old son, TS, who she bizarrely believed was ready to play dad to our baby. We'd only met EM once when we moved into our cozy 2-bedroom home 6 months ago. It was a quiet cul-de-sac, the kind of place where kids draw chalk art on driveways and neighbors mow each other's lawns. EM showed up that first week with a loaf of banana bread, still warm from the oven, wrapped in a checkered cloth. Her smile was wide, her voice chipper as she introduced herself and TS, who hovered awkwardly behind her. She mentioned he was great with kids, which I thought was odd since we hadn't mentioned having any yet. I thanked her, figuring she was just overly friendly. When we brought Liam home from the hospital, the air was crisp with early autumn chill, and our street was lined with golden leaves. We were bleary-eyed, overwhelmed, and overjoyed, cradling our tiny bundle as we stepped out of the car. There was EM, waiting on our porch with a handmade, welcome home baby sign, glittery letters sparkling in the sunlight, and a tray of sugar-dusted cookies. It was sweet, if a bit over the top. My wife, Sarah, smiled politely, her arms full of baby gear, and I mumbled a thank you, chalking it up to small-town enthusiasm. Inside, we laughed about her eagerness, joking that she must not have much going on. The next day, EM was back. The doorbell rang 3 times before noon, each visit more intrusive. First, she asked if we needed formula, her eyes darting past me into the living room where Liam slept in his bassinet. Then she returned with a pack of diapers, insisting we might be low. By the 3rd visit, I was nursing a coffee, barely awake, when she asked if TS could come hold Liam. I froze, mid-sip. We were still in that fragile new parent phase, no visitors, no handling, just us bonding with our son. I politely declined, explaining we weren't ready for that. Her face fell, lips pursed like I'd insulted her, but she nodded and said, I understand. Her tone suggested otherwise. Over the next few days, EM became inescapable. Every time I stepped outside to check the mail, her front door would creak open, and there she was, waving like we were old friends. Her questions were relentless. How's the baby sleeping? Breast or bottle? Does he like swaddling? If Sarah took Liam onto the porch for fresh air, bundled in a soft blue blanket, EM would coincidentally appear, watering her already soaked flowers, launching into chatter about TS. Her comments were bizarrely fixated on him. He's so nurturing, you wouldn't believe how good he is with children. He's thinking of becoming a pediatrician, maybe even a young father someday. It would be so good for him to learn hands-on with a real baby. I'd nod, forcing a smile, but my gut churned. Sarah and I started calling her Banana Bread Lady in private, trying to laugh it off, but her persistence was unsettling. One evening, as we rocked Liam to sleep, she rang the bell again. I peeked through the blinds and saw her holding a knitted baby blanket, her eyes scanning our windows. I didn't answer. The real red flag came a week later. I was pushing Liam's stroller to the park, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot, when EM appeared beside me, matching my pace. You know, she said, her voice syrupy, you should let TS babysit. It would give him a sense of what being a father is like, such an important life experience for a young man. I laughed, thinking it was a bad joke, but her eyes were deadly serious. I stopped walking, the stroller's wheels squeaking to a halt. He's not a toy, I said, my voice sharper than intended. Liam's not here for your son to practice parenting. Her face hardened, and she snapped, you're being selfish. You're robbing a young man of growth. I turned and walked away, my heart pounding. That night, I told Sarah we needed to set boundaries. EM was crossing lines I didn't even know existed. We started ignoring her knocks. The doorbell would ring while we ate dinner, and we'd exchange glances, silently agreeing to let it go unanswered. But EM didn't take the hint. Update 1. 1 week later. Ignoring her backfired. EM started leaving notes, each one more unhinged than the last. The first was in our mailbox, written in loopy cursive on pastel pink paper. TS just wants to help. Why are you being so closed off? The next was taped to our front door. All children are raised by communities. He deserves a chance to bond. The third slid under our doormat, made my blood run cold. If we want good men in the future, we need to give them babies now. I stood in our living room, reading it aloud to Sarah, both of us stunned. Who says that? I was done. That night, I ordered a doorbell camera, the kind with motion detection and cloud storage. I wasn't taking chances. Around 10 p.m., as Sarah nursed Liam in the nursery, the camera pinged my phone. There was EM, standing on our porch in the dark, holding an empty baby carrier. Her face was lit by the porch light, her expression blank but intense, like she was waiting for something. My stomach dropped. I yanked open the door, adrenaline surging, and said, "You need to leave. Now." She burst into tears, clutching the carrier to her chest. "I just wanted to practice, for when I'm a grandma," she sobbed. I closed the door, locked it, and called the non-emergency police line. I needed this on record. The next morning, an officer took my statement. I showed him the notes, the camera footage, and explained EM's obsession with TS parenting our son. He agreed it was creepy, but said no crime had been committed, yet. He advised documenting everything and suggested a restraining order if things escalated. I hoped it wouldn't come to that. Spoiler, it did. Update 2. 2 weeks later. I was at the grocery store, grabbing diapers and coffee, when my phone rang. Sarah's voice was shaky, near tears. She's here again. With her son. I abandoned my cart and sped home, my heart racing. EM and TS had shown up at our door while Sarah was alone with Liam. The doorbell camera caught it all. They rang the bell repeatedly, and when Sarah didn't answer, EM started talking loudly through the door, like she knew we could hear. "He's ready, TS," she said, her voice muffled but clear on the footage. "He's even watched birthing videos. This is important. We can take care of the baby for the day. Just trust us." TS, a lanky kid with shaggy hair, stood silently, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. Sarah, holding Liam in the nursery, texted me in a panic. When EM wouldn't leave, Sarah shouted through the door, "I'm calling the police." EM's response chilled me. "You don't deserve that child if you're going to be so selfish with him." I got home just as the police arrived. EM tried to spin it, claiming she was checking on a neighbor because she heard a baby crying. The officers weren't buying it. We showed them the camera footage, the creepy notes, and recounted her obsession with TS parenting Liam. They escorted EM and TS home, warning them to stay away. We filed for a temporary restraining order the next day, our hands shaking as we signed the paperwork. Sarah barely slept that night, jumping at every sound, and I felt helpless watching her anxiety spike. Final update, 1 month later. The restraining order hearing was surreal. EM showed up in a navy blazer, clutching a thick binder stuffed with papers. She presented it to the judge like it was a legal defense, filled with printed mom blogs, parenting psychology articles, and headlines like, "Why we need to let teens parent." Her argument was unhinged. TS needed early parenting experience to become a strong, responsible man, and she had a right to offer him that through our child. She even claimed we were harming society by gatekeeping the parenting experience. Her voice was fervent, her hands gesturing wildly as she spoke, like she genuinely believed her cause was noble. Sarah and I sat there, dumbfounded, as the judge skimmed her binder. He didn't even let her finish her spiel. "This is a private family, not a public resource," he said sharply. He granted us a 5-year restraining order. EM and TS must stay 200 feet away from us, our home, and cannot contact us in any way. Violation means arrest. EM's face fell, her binder slipping to the floor with a thud. I felt a mix of relief and lingering unease as we left the courtroom. We sold the house. It broke our hearts. We'd painted Liam's nursery pale blue, hung a mobile of tiny stars above his crib, and planned to build memories there. But EM's obsession tainted it. We couldn't relax, always checking windows, jumping at car doors slamming. We found a new home in a quiet town an hour away, surrounded by rolling hills and friendly neighbors who wave but mind their own business. Our new house has a sunny porch where Sarah rocks Liam, and I'm building a sandbox for when he's older. It feels like a fresh start. Liam's 6 months old now, all gummy smiles and chubby cheeks. He's happy, healthy, and blissfully unaware of the chaos we dodged. TS never held him, and he never will. Sarah's regained her spark, though she still checks the locks at night, a habit we're both trying to break. Moral of the story? Sometimes the creepiest people show up with banana bread and smiles. Trust your instincts, lock your doors, and don't let anyone guilt you into sharing your kid.